in Africa has been practiced from time immemorial. The traditional beekeepers used simple hives often made from hollow logs. The empty hives are placed high up on trees, become occupied by passing swarms, and in due course are harvested by the beekeepers. This method of honey harvesting may destroy the colony and result in a poor yield of low-quality hive products. Today, we tour a bee farm that belongs to Tharaka Honey Processors in Ruiru. Here, Professor Miriam and her husband Professor Kindiki have set apiaries from which they collect their honey from. Professor Miriam, who is an expert in beekeeping, will share the tips and requirements to consider for one to become a successful beekeeper.
We have several hives. Some of the hives have been colonized, others have not been colonized. But some of these hives have just been transported to this place and they came with the bees. But you see, now some of them are empty simply because the bees came in, the ones that were in, they moved. I want to guess it's because of the disturbance. So first of all, they want to scout the area and then to know the environmental issues. And now they have started colonizing the hives, and actually we are going to harvest honey. And I want to tell you that beekeeping is a very interesting enterprise, that anyone would do it. But first of all, you have to have the passion, you have to love the bee. You don't have to run away from the bees because of the sting, but the moment you become one of their friends, even that sting is no longer there. And if it does, it also 1 or 2, 3 bees when the sting you, it's fine, because first of all, they boost your immune system. It is improved the things like malaria and other problems. You're not to be catching them because already you are secured by that venom. To be a beekeeper, one, you have to be very focused. You must have that great interest, and it is not easy. I'll say it is not easy because if you are not very strong enough, you are not focused, you lose interest. Because if I'm not so focused, I would lose and do other farming. Because I'll say the bees came and then they left. No, you have to understand them. You have to be patient enough. You wait for them. They go and then they come again, and then that's when you start enjoying. There are several challenges along the way, okay, including even money, because these hives, you see, like this one, this is the Langstroth hive. It's a bit expensive in the market. It's selling about 5,500. Others are selling even 10,000. It depends with the carpenter. So if you are focused, you can start even with one hive.
It is one thing to keep a few bees for your homestead consumption and another to have bees produce honey for commercial purposes. With modern beekeeping in Kenya, it is easier to produce honey today than it ever was before. When starting out, you need at least 10,000 shillings to get yourself a beehive, which is worth 5,000 shillings, beekeeping gears, and harvesting materials that go for another 5,000 Kenya shillings.
You can start beekeeping then with the little money that you have, even using the traditional log hive. Although it will not produce so much honey for you, but as you know, even a single journey starts with just a single step. So starting with a single hive, then you go building from there, and then you realize at the end of the day, because you have the interest and you have the passion, you'll see that you have so many hives and you're able to collect a lot of honey. You enjoy your honey eating and you also make money out of it.
Quality honey starts with a good apiary. When choosing a site to set up your beehives, a beekeeper should ensure that the beehives will be away from human activity and noise, a place near a water source, and away from direct sun and winds, near flowers, plants, and trees, safe from predators, in an area with easy access. At Tharaka Honey Apiary, they have set up their hives at the edge of the compound.
You must understand how bees work. You must understand them. You must have that basic knowledge, even how to handle them. Because one thing we know is that bees don't like a noisy area. Bees, they also need a cool place where there's shade. They don't like that very strong scorching sun. And also they also need an area where there's enough water and there's enough forage for them to harvest nectar and the pollen, which is their food. So the area where you are placing your hives or where you're setting up your apiary, you have to select far from people, disturbance of people, disturbance of animals, and where there's a source of water, like where we are now, there's a river just down here, and you can see there's a lot of vegetation around. So our bees have got enough food for them to harvest. There's enough water and also the shade. You see, we have fenced, the area is fenced with kayepo, so there's no interruption. Our bees will just get out and go harvest and then come back. There's totally no disturbance. It's a quiet area. If you have a small land and you want to use it as your home and also practice your beekeeping and maybe even keep other animals, you can select the corner side of your homestead, but where there's enough shade. And for you to protect bees from other animals or from people, you can put up a very tall fence. Either you can use the net or you can use the live fence, so that when they're getting from the hives, going to the foliage now, they don't have to go straight stinging animals and people. They normally go up. They harvest the honey and then they come back to the hives. So they will totally not have any interaction with the people or the animals in the compound. So even 1 acre, even a quarter, you can also practice beekeeping even in a quarter land. And then the other thing that you can also consider, assuming that the place where you are, you don't have this kind of forests, it's an open land. You can also provide a shade by constructing a temporary building, and then you use the glass as a roof just to cool the area, because bees, they don't like very strong sun. They don't like that strong heat. They run away. So you provide a shade by making a makeshift or just constructing a well-ventilated area and use the glass as the roof. And the bees will be very comfortable there. They'll provide honey from there, because they'll be traveling even 5 kilometers to harvest the pollen and nectar, and then they'll bring it, so long as there's enough forage and also there's source of water.
After selecting the best site to set up your beehives, a beekeeper should plan for his capital investment and start purchasing the necessary equipment and gears. These include a bee suit, gloves, gumboots, a smoker, and colony of bees.
Then the next thing, you must have the hives now, the granaries or the bee houses. Then from there, you should also have capital, just literal capital. That's what we say. For you to allow you to take off, even though it means one hive. Then you'll need these other tools for harvesting your honey. For example, where I am, I'm holding this one, we call it smoker. A smoker, this one is for smoking the bees. You treat them with the smoke so that you're able to harvest the honey, to make them cool down a bit so that you can harvest. These are the very basic tools. Then we also need, this is the hive tool that you should have. This one, it will help you to separate the combs or the comb holders so that you can harvest honey. Then you also need this is hive brush for blasting off the bees. It's not good for you to harvest honey together with the bees. So this one, you blast off the bees and then you take away the bee combs. You need to have a smoker. I've seen this one is again for cooling the bees and make them not to be so aggressive to sting you when you're harvesting the honey. Because actually when you're harvesting the honey, it's like you're stealing from them. So they'll fight you back. And for you to keep them cool, you smoke them, you silence them. Then you use the bee brush to blast off the bees. from the combs, and then you harvest your honey. We have got the hive tool or hive knife for cutting the combs, because they are stuck together by bees using the propolis, which is one of the premium hive products that has not been exploited. But within Darakane, we are using that product. Then you should also be in the right gear for harvesting. You see, I'm properly dressed. I have a bee suit, and there's no bee that can get to any part of my body. So as a proper professional beekeeper, you need to be properly equipped. You need to have this kind of a bee suit. We have from the hat, the overall, the gloves, and also the gum boots that will protect you totally from getting stung by the bees.
There are different types of hives that are used by different beekeepers, but for commercial purposes, a beekeeper should go for the Langstroth hive or the Kenya top bar hive.
Basically, we have got two types of beehives. The Langstroth hive, which usually has a brooder at the lower chamber, and the upper chamber we have the super. At the lower chamber, that's where we have the queen with its guard, the drone bees, they are here. And even the workers, when they bring the pollen and the nectar, they put it here to feed the bees. They store it, and after it is done with this area, it goes up now to the upper chamber. And then that's where they store now the nectar. And then the honey that is up here, it is very clean, it doesn't have pollen. It is pure, and it is stored here for it to be used when there's no nectar in the forage. Especially in the off season, when there's no more nectar being produced in the farm or in the forage. Then we have got another hive that we are going to take you through, the KTBH, Kenya top bar hive. That one there's a queen excluder that is built in between the bars to separate it from the active bees and the queen, so that because the work for the queen is just to lay her eggs, and so when it is mixed with other bees, it will contaminate, or the honey is not pure, because you'll get the mix of pollen and the broods, the young bees, which you are not supposed to harvest. So that's why we separate it. For the queen just to lay her eggs, the young bees are hatched there, and from there, when they become active, now they start also now harvesting and coming to the other section to store the food.
When setting up a beehive on the apiary, one should mount it above ground to safeguard it from insects and mites. The height of a beehive should be about 2 meters above the ground for easy operations of the hives. Professor Isaiah Kindiki takes us through the process of assembling a beehive for both the Langstroth hive and the Kenya top bar hive.
This stand should be roughly about a meter for comfortable working. Now, this is a traditional Langstroth hive, which is quite popular in Kenya and in many countries. It has two chambers, the brooder, which is the home for the queen, and the drones. And then we have this other compartment here called the super. Now, we place this first. My colleague explained that you can get the bees here in two ways. One, either through a catcher box, you place the bees there and then you let it acclimatize for a while, and then when this is done, you introduce the super. The other way is to place this on a high ground, say a tree or some roof, and when the bees colonize, you bring it down. Now, as you can see, the super in terms of size is smaller than the brooder. That means it will take a while. The bees will only go to the super after they have made, or all the combs are already made in the brooding area. Otherwise, they will remain down there. Now, assuming that it's already colonized and the queen is there with the drones and the worker bees, and it's already done or full with the royal jelly and other food for the drones and the queen, then at that point we bring this screen. And this screen is supposed to separate the brood from the honey in the super. So we place it there. Again, this mesh is fine enough to restrict the movement of the queen. The queen cannot go through here, but the worker bees will, they are smaller in size, so they will easily move up. And then we introduce the super. We introduce the super by carefully placing it on the screen. Put it nicely, and when that is done, we put the roof. This is just to protect the hive from the rain and contamination from falling leaves and all that, and also to cool the hive in case it becomes hot. So this is the assembly of a Langston hive in short. But through experience, what we found out is that in many places that we put apiary, it was taking too long for the bees to start filling in the super. They were always remaining in the brooding zone. They would remain here, and they make the honey, they eat it, they make it, they eat it. Every time we check our honey, our hive, the super, nothing has been built, no combs, nothing. So we developed our own single box kind of a Langston, which is similar to the top bar in terms of the architecture, by just dividing the brooding area, and instead of having a super, we just maintain the assembly as in the Kenya top bar. Only that the combs will have this kind of wires to hold the comb together, so that when we take it to the centrifuge, the comb will not break, unlike in the Kenya top bar, where we harvest inclusive of the comb. Now in this hive, instead of putting the screen horizontally here to separate the brooder from the super, we decided to put it horizontally, just as in the Kenya top bar. Why? Is to shorten the time that the bees will take in the brooder before they cross over to make the honey in the super, in quotes. So after about 5 or so combs, so that's a 1, then 2, this 3, 4, 5. We introduce a fixed mesh here on the 60 bar to separate the brooding zone and where the hive is for making honey. This is the zone which we harvest. You don't harvest the brooder. The brooder is permanently colonized by the queen, and this is where now the broods or the young bees are manufactured, and all that is like their factory. We leave them to stay there in peace, but whatever they bring to this other side, we harvest. So this is similar in arrangement as in Kenya top bar, but it takes much shorter time for us to harvest compared to the traditional Langstroth as recommended. It will take a longer time for the bees to give us honey. So that is a modification. The next hive is the Kenya top bar, which is just next here. In length is about 4 feet. Sorry, this is a 3 feet hive. It could be even longer, but we make it for 3 feet. And the arrangement is that horizontally we have 2 chambers here. We have the brooder separated from this other chamber where honey is harvested from, just like in this other hive, the way I've just explained. But the slight difference is if I remove these ones, you see there's no wire. There's no wire compared to that other one. Meaning the hive here is just held by the stuck to this bar, and using the hive tool we just cut it off. And the reason is we harvest both honey and the wax from this hive. In this other one we only harvest honey and not wax.
Normally state that the hive should be 1 meter above the ground. At most, for those people who have bit store, it shouldn't exceed 1.5 meters. That one you protect it from even the other animals like the honey badgers, and even if you have animals like the goats, you protect it from there. But the key thing is, it is easier for the modern beekeeper to harvest it when it is at the lower level than when it is on the higher side. So it makes it easier for the beekeeper to harvest that honey easily, and even to manage not only harvesting honey, but even managing the hive. When it is at that level, it is easier for the beekeeper to manage the hive properly. So those are the recommended heights that a beekeeper should consider when you are constructing or when you are setting up your apiary.